Alright, y'all, welcome back to Mile Markers, Memories, and Milestones. And today, we're going somewhere big. Not just one story, but a whole series of stories. Because we're stepping into San Francisco in 1906. And this isn't just history. This is one of those moments where everything people thought was solid proved it wasn't. Now let me paint this picture for you. It's April 17th, 1906. San Francisco is booming, wealthy, full of opportunity, and still riding that gold rush energy. Population around 400,000 people. It's packed, it's busy, it's alive. And you've got theaters, trolley cars, hotels, wealthy businessmen, working class families, and people going to bed that night thinking about businesses, tomorrow, and normal life. Nobody, and I mean nobody, not one single person went to sleep thinking their entire city would be gone in hours. Now here's one of those moments that makes history feel real. The night before the earthquake, one of the most famous opera singers in the world, Enrico Caruso, had just performed Carmen in San Francisco. He goes to bed, normal night, successful performance. Imagine going to sleep thinking, yeah, tonight went pretty well, and then waking up, the world ending. April 18th, 1906, 5:12 a.m., it starts quietly. A rumble. Then, the ground shifts. Hard. A magnitude 7.9 earthquake tears along the San Andreas Fault, ripping through roughly 270 miles of earth. Buildings began to sway, and then snap. The shaking lasts 45 to 60 seconds. But it feels like forever. Now let me tell you something people don't always realize. When the ground itself moves, there's nothing your brain can compare it to. Because the thing you trust most just betrayed you. Immediately, buildings collapse, chimneys crash through the ceilings, streets split, train tracks twist. City Hall, well, it crumbles. Glass roofs, they're shattered. Everything solid isn't anymore. Now here's where it gets real human. People didn't wake up prepared. They woke up barefoot, half-dressed, in pajamas, running outside into the streets, trying to understand what was happening, including people like Caruso. That's what always gets me about disasters like this. It's not just buildings failing, it's people standing in the streets in the same clothes that they slept in, realizing their life just changed, and they didn't even have time to put their shoes on. Now here's where things turn worse than people expect, because the earthquake wasn't the thing that destroyed San Francisco. The fire was. Gas lines ruptured, water mains collapsed, and suddenly, fires started everywhere. But here's the real problem. Firefighters have no water to fight them. So imagine this. Your city's burning, and the people whose jobs it is to stop it can't. We'll go deeper into the fire beginning to spread. Will even the first failed attempts to stop it, and the moment San Francisco realizes it's losing. Alright, y'all, you got a glimpse of what was already happening. The earthquake had hit, buildings are falling, the city was shaken apart. But what I need you to understand is this. That wasn't the worst part. The first flames. Because in the quiet moments, right after the shaking stopped, that's when the real damage started. Gas lines were broken, electrical wires were down, stoves had been knocked over, furnaces cracked open, and all across the city, at the same time, small fires began. Not one, dozens, then hundreds. Now, imagine that you've just survived the ground trying to kill you, and now you smell smoke. Now normally, this is where help comes in. Firefighters show up, hooking up the hoses, putting it out. Except this time, they couldn't. Because the earthquake had already destroyed the city's water mains. No pressure, no supply, no way to fight what was coming. So now, the one thing that could have saved the city was already gone. This didn't hit everyone at once. At first, people thought, okay, we survived the quake. And then they saw smoke rising from different parts of the city. Then more and more smoke. Then flames began. And then something clicked. This wasn't over. It was just getting started. Now here's the part that gets real hard to imagine. The fires didn't just stay small. They started and they began to merge. Separate fires began joining together until they became something bigger than anyone could ever control. It turned into a firestorm. One source describes how the fire spread across the entire districts, consuming hundreds of blocks of the city. This wasn't just one building burning. This was the whole neighborhood disappearing. And once fire reaches that point, you are not fighting it anymore. You are just trying to escape it. Now, remember, this all started at 5:12 in the morning. People didn't even have time to prepare. So what you start seeing is people running into the streets, carrying whatever they could grab, dragging trunks, bags, furniture, some barefoot, some still in their night clothes. Families, they were separated, not because they meant to be, but because everything was happening too fast. And this is where it stops being history for me. This is where it feels real, because everybody thinks they grab the most important stuff. But when the ground moves and fire follows, you grab whatever your hands touch first. You could feel the heat from blocks away. As the fire spreads, the heat becomes unbearable. People describe walls glowing, air thick with smoke, flames jumping from building to building. Wind drives it faster and faster. The wooden buildings, well, they burn quick. And San Francisco, at that time, was full of them. Here's the thing, fire doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care if you're rich or if you're poor. It doesn't care if you just survived an earthquake. It just keeps on going. The desperation sets in, and here's where the human behavior starts to change. Because when the systems fail, people, well, they're willing to try anything. There are accounts from this disaster that people tried using whatever liquid they could find to fight the flames. And yes, that included wine, because that's what they had. Barrels, bottles, anything wet. Now imagine that, standing in front of a fire, eating your city away, throwing wine at it, and just hoping it helps. And then came one of the most dangerous decisions of the entire disaster. Officials began trying to stop the fire by blowing up buildings. The idea was to create fire breaks. Remove buildings so the fire has nowhere to go. Sounds smart, right? Except most of the people doing the dynamiting were not trained. So instead of stopping the fires, they made it worse. More fires started, more chaos occurred, more destruction. And that right there, that's panic. That's what happens when somebody has to make a decision fast and gets it wrong at scale. By now, let's be honest about what's happening. San Francisco is not winning this fight. The fire's moving faster than people, faster than response, and faster than control. Entire districts gone. Homes, businesses, history gone. Thousands of buildings are already lost. And the fire, it keeps moving. This is the part I always sit with, because nothing feels more helpless than watching something you love burn and knowing you can't stop it. All right, y'all, at this point, this is no longer an emergency. This is a city collapsing. This is the break when people stop trying to stay. There's a moment in every disaster when people stop thinking, maybe we can fix this, and start thinking, we just have to get out, and get out now. And for San Francisco, that moment came fast, because the fires didn't slow down. They spread, block after block after block, street after street after street, until entire sections of the city were burning at once. More than 500 blocks would eventually be destroyed by fires alone. That's not a fire. That's a moving wall. Now let me point this picture out slower, because this is where this gets human. Families were running, but they weren't running empty-handed. They were trying to carry trunks, photo albums, money boxes, blankets, whatever mattered most, dragging belongings through the streets while ash fell around them. But here's the part nobody talks about enough. Most of them had to let it go, because when the heat gets close enough, you drop everything. And I always wonder, what was the last thing people let go of? Because that wasn't just stuff, that was their entire lives. Now think about this. In the chaos, families were getting separated. Buildings were collapsing behind you, flames ahead of you, crowds pushing in every direction. There were no phones, no way to call someone, no way to check. People got separated, not intentionally, but because they had to move fast. And once you lost somebody in that kind of chaos, there was no guarantee you'd ever find them again. And that's the part of this scares me the most. Not the fires, not even the earthquakes, but that moment when you reach for somebody and they're just not there anymore. The fire began chasing people. Now we need to talk about the fire itself, because this wasn't just something people ran from. It followed them. Wind carried embers, jumping fires across streets. Buildings would catch without even being touched. Flames would just leap ahead of where people were standing. Now imagine this. You think you're safe, and then the building in front of you catches fire. You don't feel like you're escaping anymore. You feel like you're being hunted. Entire neighborhoods were disappearing around them. By now, whole parts of San Francisco were just gone. Hotels, businesses, homes, churches, nothing left but just smoke and ash. This fire would eventually destroy around 2,800 buildings. And at this moment in the story, that number is still growing. Now I'm going to walk you through this the way survivors described it. Not for shock, but so you can feel what they felt. You wake up shaken. You hear glass breaking. You run outside. The ground stops moving. But now, the city is loud. Screaming, crying, people everywhere. You see smoke rising across the skyline. You think, okay, it's over. But it really ain't over. The smell hits next. Smoke. Thick. Heavy. You hear someone yell, "The city's on fire!" You look, and now there are flames. Not in one place, but everywhere. And you start grabbing things, hands shaking, trying to think straight, but nothing feels real. The heat's growing. People start moving fast. Running now. You follow them, because staying still isn't safe anymore. The sky goes from blue to gray to black. And that's when you can understand this isn't something you survive in place. You survive it by leaving. Now here's something not everyone realizes. A lot of people didn't escape in cars. They walked out of San Francisco, out of burning streets, collapsing buildings, smoke-filled air, carrying whatever they had left. And behind them, their city was gone. And then came the silence after the movement. And this is something I always think about. At some point, people had to stop running because they made it far enough away to just stand still. And when they turned back, they saw nothing but smoke. Can you imagine that moment? Standing there, realizing you didn't have a home anymore. You don't know where your people are. And the only thing you have behind you is fire. The city itself is lost. By this point, there's no saving San Francisco, not like it was. The fires would continue for several days, burning through miles of the city and leaving behind nothing but ruins. And here's the truth. This isn't a story about a city being damaged. This is a story about a city being erased. All right, y'all, the city's burning. People are running. Homes, they're just gone. Now, we step into the part nobody prepares for, surviving afterward. Because once you get out, you've got new problems. Where do you go? The moment everyone stops. Now picture this. You've walked as far as you can. Your legs are shaking, your lungs burn from smoke, and finally, you stop. You turn around, and where your city used to be, nothing but fire and smoke. I always imagine that moment right there, because that's when it hits you. You didn't just escape something, you lost something. By the time people made it out, this is what they had. Clothes on their back, maybe one or two belongings, maybe family, maybe not. That's it. The sources estimate that around 225,000 people, more than half the city, were homeless after the disaster. That's half a city. Imagine half of a city with nowhere to sleep, nothing to go back to. The refugee camps began. Now here's where the city and the country had to respond fast. Refugee camps were set up in parks, open spaces, anywhere safe enough, far enough away from the fires. Eventually, more than 20 official camps were created. Places like Golden Gate Park, open fields, and anywhere they could find a spot. But let me tell you this clearly. This wasn't comfort. This was survival. What were the conditions really like? Well, at first, people expected this to be temporary. But the scale was too big. Too many people. Not enough food, water, or clothing. One official report even noticed camps had no eggs, milk, or fresh meat. Now imagine that. You just lost everything. Now you're standing in a field, hoping somebody hands you something just to eat. Here's some survivor stories. The mother. You'll hear a child crying faintly in the background as she's talking. Let me walk you through this story. A mother standing in a camp. She doesn't even have a house. She doesn't have a bed. She has one child in her arms, one holding her hand. The baby's crying because the air still smells like smoke. The older child keeps asking, when are we going home? And she can't answer because there is no home. That's the kind of moment in history doesn't count, but it's the one that stays with people forever. Then there's a man who just stayed too long. There were people who didn't leave right away. They stayed. They tried to save what they could. One man watched his building burn, made the decision too late. He runs, but now the fire's faster. Turning corners, he sees streets already burning. Every escape closing in. He makes it out, but barely. And when he turns back, everything he worked for was gone. Sometimes survival doesn't feel like winning. Sometimes it just feels like you're here. Then there was an old man. He was too slow to run with the crowds. He was just walking steadily, but behind everyone else, watching younger people pass him. He carries one thing, a small box. Inside it, papers, photos, memories, and that's it. When he reaches camp, he just sits down and doesn't speak, because sometimes shock doesn't look loud. Sometimes it's just like somebody just quietly sitting, trying to understand what's left. Then in the chaos, it does something to people. One woman running in the crowd gets separated. She calls out, no answer, keeps moving, because stopping is dangerous. Later, she reaches safety and realizes she doesn't know where her family is. Days pass, still no word. And y'all, that right there, that is a different kind of loss, because it doesn't end that day, it lingers. Then there was a child who thought it was the end. It was a boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old. He wakes up during the quake, sees everything shaking, hears crashing, runs outside, and later would say, I thought it was the end of the world. And you know what? To a kid, it probably felt exactly like that. Now back to the camps. This is what daily life looked like. Long lines for food, sleeping on the ground, tents crowded together, smoke still hanging in the air, people waiting for news, for help, for anything that looked like normal again. And the hardest part, nobody knew how long this would last. And that's the quiet fear. Not the moment the disaster hits, but the moment after, when you realize this ain't over. This is just life now. This led to an emotional fallout. People were dealing with shock, grief, confusion, exhaustion, not just physically, but mentally, because everything familiar is gone. Homes, streets, routines, and that kind of loss, it doesn't hit you all at once. It comes in waves. And sometimes the scariest part isn't the earthquake or the fires. It's the realization that life as you knew it is over. Ashes, tents, and what was left of a city. All right, y'all. Now we've reached the part of the story that doesn't get talked about enough. Not the shaking, not even the fire, but what it really felt like to live through what came after. When the fire finally dies, after days of burning, after entire districts collapsed into ash, the fires finally began to lose strength. Not because firefighting suddenly got control, but because there was nothing left to burn. The flames had already consumed homes, businesses, streets, and history. One eyewitness described it plainly. San Francisco is gone. Nothing remains but memories. Now sit with that. Not damaged, not broken, just gone. The man in the smoke, well, he walks back towards the city. He shouldn't, but he does, because he wants to see if anything's left. The air is thick, smoke hanging low over the ground. He walks past collapsed brick, blackening beams, and streets he barely recognizes. But he stops, because he realizes he doesn't know where he is. The landmarks are gone. Everything looks the same. It's all burned, charred, flattened, smoking, and gray. And that's when a place stops being a place, when even the people who live there can't recognize it anymore. Now let's go back to the camps, because while the fire dies, life continues out there. Golden Gate Park, once a place of leisure, becomes something else entirely, a massive tent city. Eyewitness accounts describe it as a kind of mushroom city, a place that sprung up overnight filled with thousands of displaced people living side by side, rich and poor. It didn't matter now. They all had nothing. They slept on the same ground, shared the same fires, ate the same food, and cried the same tears. Disasters don't ask what you had before. They level everything. Now, imagine nighttime in one of those camps. You've been running all day. You're exhausted. But when the sun goes down, it gets cold. The ocean air rolls in. Fog settles over everything. And your bed, well, it's grass. Your blanket, whatever you managed to carry. And most people slept outside. No shelter, only makeshift coverings. And here's what I kept thinking about. How do you sleep when everything that made you feel safe is gone? There was a line for food. One man, he was standing in line. He's been there for hours. There are hundreds of people ahead of him, hundreds behind him, all waiting for the same thing, food, because supplies are so limited. Distribution centers feed thousands, including reports of hundreds of thousands being fed by relief efforts within days. When he finally gets to the front, he's handed bread and canned food. No fresh meat, no comfort food, just basic survival. And that's when survival stops being dramatic and starts being routine. One account tells us of a well-dressed young woman, someone who had just days before was part of high society. Asked where she slept that night, she answered simply, on a grave, because even cemeteries were filled with refugees. And that right there, that's the moment everything shifts, when dignity becomes secondary to survival. The camps became a new city. Over time, something strange happened. The camps, well, they stabilized. Not comfortably, but enough to function. Tents are organized, rows are formed, grids are created. One camp had thousands of tents, and they were all arranged like streets. Entire organized camp cities appeared. Children started playing again. People formed routines. Meals were shared. Because humans, we're real good at building something out of nothing. This all led to a child's new normal. A small group of kids running between tents, playing games, laughing. For a second, you'd almost think everything was normal. But then you notice there's no school. There's no homes. There's no streets. There's just tents. And smoke in the distance. Kids will adapt faster than adults. But that doesn't mean that they understand survival in uneven reality. Not every camp was the same. Some were organized, military-run, structured, others chaotic, overwhelmed, overcrowded, barely held it together. Sanitation was a constant problem. Space was tight. Privacy, that didn't even exist. And when you put that many people together, hungry, tired, grieving, you don't just get survival. You get tension. The quiet breakdown, one woman sitting alone outside a tent, not crying, not speaking, just staring. Someone tries to talk to her, no response. Because sometimes people don't react loudly. Sometimes they just shut down completely. And I think that might be one of the most honest reactions of all. You might ask what was left behind. By the end of the disaster, more than 250,000 people were homeless. Over half the city was destroyed, entire communities erased, but something else remained. People. And they were alive, and they were trying. They were working to build something again, even if it started out with nothing but a tent, a line for food, and the people standing next to them. Now I want you to think about something. We talk about disasters like they're moments, but really they're not. They're days, weeks, months, sometimes years. It didn't end when the earthquake stopped. It didn't end when the fire burned out. It settled into the camps, in people's minds, in the quiet moments when everything slowed down enough for them to realize nothing was the same anymore. And if you've ever had your world change suddenly, even on the smaller scale, then you already understand a piece of this story. This is the end of episode 1. In episode 2, coming next, we're going to cover the fire that wouldn't be fought. We're going to go deeper into how the firefighters lost control. The dangerous decisions, dynamite explosions, the wine, the desperation, and the moment the city realized they were feeding the fire instead of stopping it. All right, if you stayed with me through this one, I appreciate you more than you know. And if the story stuck with you, like, follow, subscribe, share it with somebody, because stories like this, they deserve to be heard and understood. And because sometimes when a place looks peaceful, you're standing on top of something that once burned. Make sure you follow for episode 2. We're going to continue with the earthquake of San Francisco.